Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Me Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And today I'm joined by a couple of longtime friends. We've been talking about this and trying to work on getting this scheduled for a long time. And I'm so glad that we're finally getting to do this. It's my friends over at Glitch Films out of Portland, Oregon. And I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. It's late on a Sunday, having to deal with, kids going to bed and things like that. And you guys have really worked hard to get this together. So thank you so much. Why don't you introduce yourselves, tell us who you are and what you guys do.
All right. We're Glitch Films, and we're based out of Portland. We are Krishna and Aly, a husband and wife team.
And we also want to thank you, Reed, for what you're doing for the community and this awesome podcast. It's like the only resource for wedding vendors here, or for wedding guests to get to know their wedding vendors here in the Pacific Northwest. So we've been listening since episode 1, and we really appreciate it. So we're a small husband and wife team. We've been in business for 5 years, and we have a kind of a unique take on wedding video. We wanted to create something that was something you couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and I'm so excited just to have you guys on, just to have another, videography team on, B, because, I do think we're kind of a similar timeline in terms of, that's kind of how long I've been doing this. And also, I do think, the take that you guys have is so unique. I see videos all the time and here, and it could be, around the country, around the world. And I do always really appreciate kind of a unique take. And, I was even looking at your site today, and I think the tagline was like, wedding videos you'll actually want to watch, right? Yes. So why don't you guys kind of, walk me through just kind of like what your style is and how you approach it and how you try to stand apart from everybody else.
Right on. Yeah. So we kind of describe our style as like, we focus on the party, we focus on the dancing. We love to have couples do their first dance outside at sunset so we can fast cut it in to their actual first dance. We like to use a lot of like upbeat music, sometimes electronic music if we want to go there, but mostly just super fun, more fast paced.
Yeah, when we first got into doing this, we kind of looked at what was out there, and we loved the cinematic quality of what was happening at the time, but it felt the majority of wedding films to us felt very a little bit forced and a little bit overly romantic. And at the time, especially, it was, this was a new thing where we were using DSLRs to create this cinematic look. And so I think people, really took it to an extreme, and we wanted to kind of flip the table on that and do something totally different. And
something that like inspires us, and we love to dance. We love to have a good time. And that's really what inspires us about video and about filmmaking.
Yeah. And when we sat down, when we sit down with couples, we always say like, we aren't going to, you're not going to see every moment of your wedding, but you are going to have all of those emotions. You're going to feel in your heart that excitement of being there and seeing all of these people looking excited, moving around, like having a great time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, like I said, up here, I see so much just like, slow-mo, like same songs, like, over and over and over again. And like, even on my side, it's like, tired of boring wedding films. Like, I think, we have a similar, different words and different, states, but very similar kind of mindsets. And I mean, like, so when you guys got into that, like, had you ever, I guess we'll kind of get into how you got into videography, but I mean, had you guys ever thought like, we're going to be like doing wedding videos full time or at least, most of the time? I know you guys do like lots of other events and stuff too, but
Yeah, I think, why don't I'll just sort of quickly tell the story about how we got into it.
I feel like we need to tell the story now. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So we actually met each other coming out of rehab. So I was a drug addict and she was an alcoholic. And so we kind of came together in this time of life where we were kind of rebirthing ourselves and coming out.
I didn't mean that far back, but that's cool.
Well, that's good. It informs what we do. So when we met, we bought an RV together and we traveled around the US. It was kind of like make life exciting so that we can make better choices and kind of start afresh. And we started doing this. We started basically like doing travel logs, like a YouTube travel log of our travels. I won't say the name on here because it's just I can't get out.
Let's not do that.
But we started off with some really bad videos, and over time we started to kind of improve the production quality, get really nerdy with it, and our followers sort of started saying to us, "You guys are like really good," and that sort of coincided with us running out of money.
Yeah, it definitely, we were broke when we got back from traveling, and we also had this newfound skill of telling stories. We got into documentary work, and we really didn't see us going into wedding filmmaking full time, but we started and we just really loved it. Like, we get to work together, we get to be with people who are like happy and positive, and we just love to like add to that energy. And when we first started, we did start, going through the motions and doing more like slow romantic stuff, and it's just not really what inspired us. So we definitely developed our style over time into something that worked for us and something that inspired us every day.
Yeah, and I think talking with the theme of addiction, it's funny, like love and being this part of people's a part of people's lives when they're in their most happiest, most purest form of themselves. It's an addictive thing. It's like, I mean, I've heard you talk about this on the podcast, Reed. You know what I'm talking about. It's like it's such a honor to be a part of people's lives. So I think when we got into it,
it is really fun.
Yeah, we didn't know that we would keep doing this, but we can't stop.
It's so funny because I can't remember who I was just talking to on the podcast, but I had done a wedding film like in August, and I had met someone else at the wedding reception, was like, "Hey, I'm getting married in a couple weeks." And we ended up having the date open. And so I ended up booking him. And then John, the other groom, was at obviously that wedding because, they were friends. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's so exciting to see you again." And yeah. And I mean, like, he knew me because like we filmed, and I mean, like we'd email. I mean, like he knew me, but nowhere near as like excited as I was to see him as he was to see me. And then, but like you said, it's totally that, you just get caught up in like the moment. And it's so kind of, you enjoy that, right? Is that kind of what you think?
Oh yeah, totally. We also get to meet and work with a lot of different people at every single wedding. So it like grows our community, and it grows our like skills for dealing with different personalities. And I know it's helped me in my like personal life, keeping like a positive attitude and always being a good addition.
Yeah, because in the end, a wedding is you can get your ego in it, but a wedding is for the bride and groom, and trying to just keep a positive face and even a positive heart around it is like really important to us because it's such an honor to be there on the day.
So when you talk about, doing like these travel logs and stuff, like, did you guys have any like videography experience beforehand, or was it a lot of like kind of self-taught figuring it out?
So for me, I didn't have any experience at all. I had never even owned a computer. I just really, like, when we met, I didn't even have a cell phone. So I was very like anti-tech. So for me, it was like Krishna taught me how to edit. And I just like took it and ran with it and was like, this is what I want to do. I love to edit. And Krishna has a different story.
So I actually, I dropped out of high school when I was a kid, and I got a job at a TV station, and, similar to, I mean, not quite the same as your story, Reed, but when I was listening to your background, a lot of similarities in our experience. And, so I didn't do as much shooting as you, but definitely was around the production side, and, was able to kind of see that workflow. And so I was there for, 3 or 4 years, and that was when we were using mini DV and shoulder cameras and PDX 10s and all that. And so now I stopped all production work, didn't even own a DSLR. And then when we got back into it, it was like, oh my gosh, look at all you can do with this minimal gear. Yeah, it was so exciting.
You just got like right back into it. And I was like, whoa, what is this side of this person? Like, I had no idea. And then when you got back into it, it was just like full speed ahead. And it's just it was really awesome that we could be creative together at an early stage of our relationship, I guess.
She put me to shame so quickly though. And it was she got so good so fast. I was like, oh man, had a head start. Nope.
I'm not gonna negate that.
Yeah, because I do know, I work, and that's why also so interesting to talk to you guys. I work with, there's tons of like husband wife photo teams, everywhere in the world, but I don't know of as many kind of husband wife video teams, and I don't know if that's just because videos is harder or like and it takes more of a skill set to do it. But I mean, do you guys, when it comes to like running the business, are you guys like who's the creative, who's doing the business, who's kind of managing, or is it kind of 50-50? Or am I like opening up a whole can of worms I don't want to open?
Oh no, we know our roles. What are our roles now?
Well, it's funny because I always like to tell couples that a lot of husband-wife teams that you do meet with, usually there's a primary and a secondary, and that is so not the case with us. We both have our own unique styles of shooting, and we both have different aspects that we take on. I do the more wide sweeping shots, like gimbal work and sliders and stuff like that. And Aly specializes in those like sniper, 7200, like really close in shots. She gets all the stuff that really matters.
Yeah, but for as far as shooting goes, we're pretty 50-50. And editing, I think we're like 80-20.
Aly,
I do most of the editing, but Krishna is a super fantastic editor that I am inspired by. So I just try to emulate his style. I'm just a little bit quicker. And then Krishna deals with like most of the business side, meeting with clients for the first time, dealing with bookings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I handle sales and kind of the glad handing and the getting to know people. And then she'll do the second meeting, which is more like detail, schedule, get down to business. And it works really well that way.
Well, I also seen you handle kind of a lot of like the social media and stuff. I mean, I see kind of Aly in the background a lot, and not in the back, but like hey, I'm here, and look at Aly's working really hard over there, and I'm sitting here, kind of doing whatever. But I guess maybe kind of like, I don't know if we really pin down like kind of your guys' style. I mean, as someone, I shot news for a long time. I'm a lot more kind of, tripod based. I mean, that's my world. I'm kind of getting into the Ronin kind of stuff now. And I kind of, have some drone guys I use, but like, when I see your guys' style, like it's really cool, right? Like it feels really like fresh to me. So I guess kind of describe, kind of let's boil this down before we move on. Like, how do you guys look at that, and how do you make that kind of stand apart?
Yeah. So I think what we, it's funny, when we named ourselves, we just picked a name out of the blue. I mean, Aly kind of came up with this name just randomly, Glitch Films, and we didn't think a whole lot of it other than that it was a really bad name. It's not what you want on your wedding day.
It's still a bad name. It's fine. We're just running with it.
But over time, we started to try out things like actual glitches in the video at specific moments to kind of just bring the edginess up. We've used a lot of handheld footage, a lot of fast moving footage. We also
do a lot of speed ramping, and we use a lot of Krishna's awesome Steadicam work, which I totally love. And you use a Zion crane for that. That's something I can't do. And we like to speed ramp those shots. We love to get a lot of awesome like dancing footage and first dance footage. So we really do focus on like the couple's first dance, especially if they have it choreographed. We're just like all over it, and we're going to try to film it like the best we can. Me on like a tighter lens and Krishna on the Zion crane, kind of orbiting, looking like a crazy person, but getting awesome shots.
Yeah, I was actually a ballet dancer when I grew up, and also did some other forms of dance. So for me, being on the dance floor and holding a camera is just like the most natural thing in the world. Interacting with people on the dance floor, you'll never see a wider smile than when I'm able to do that. So that kind of informs what we do, and we love to cut that in with portrait dancing as well. So I'll also like carry a little speaker along with us everywhere we go on the wedding day, so that we can and we have a like special playlist so that we can always get couples to dance.
Yeah, like if you hire us, we will make you dance.
I think that about sums it up.
And then in terms of kind of like putting it all together, like you said, you kind of focus on a lot of, a little more edgy, I would say. I mean, so like what kind of couples do you find are attracted to you and the work that you do and the kind of guys you like to work with?
You've been meeting with clients.
So it's been an interesting journey there. I feel like when we first started doing the kind of edgier stuff, people would hire us and we would be a little concerned about it because they would send us over some example films and it was definitely not the style that we do. And so we kind of had to just cross our fingers every time and bank on the idea that what we were doing was cool enough that they would fall in love with it. And that's what we've built on.
And we don't necessarily get just like younger clients in their 20s. We really have like all age ranges of mostly just super fun people who really just want to have an awesome time at their wedding. That's kind of been like a constant for us, is like every couple we meet with is just like, we saw your videos and like it looks so fun, and that's what's important to us. So people focus on what they want to focus on their wedding day, but a lot of the clients that we attract are focused on just everybody they love having a fun time. We also get a lot of people who are like into EDM music and electronic music of all kinds, which also seems to be a factor in hiring us too.
Yeah, I like to describe the music that we use as not necessarily electronic, but synthesized. So we do tend to shy away from like folky or natural sounds, and we tend to use synthesized songs. We just find that it's for the style that we use and for the flow that we like to use and the way that we like to mix songs together. It just works really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the hardest thing, I think for a lot of, at least for me, and like I know other videographers, is, when people are trying to book you, and I know like, when I was getting started and like, maybe rates are a little lower and people go like, well, I really like your pricing, but I really like how this person does it or how that person does it. Or like you said, they kind of like are sending you these examples, and like, I've always tried to run, my video more as like a business and like an art. I mean, obviously, like I want to do, what I like, but ultimately, like you've said, it's all about kind of the bride and groom and their day. But at a certain point, like you're only able to do stuff, like your mind only works one way, right? Like people would send me like, for example, like if they send me your videos and I would be like, I don't like, my mind doesn't even like work that way to,
Right.
do that or whatever. And so I get what you're saying where, you guys like obviously had this vision and the people are sending you stuff. And so obviously it worked out. But I mean, what kinds of reactions then like did you get or to kind of help you kind of sway in the way that you guys are going now?
So one of the first like really risk-taking videos we did was kind of our second season. Our first season was pretty slow. We were just getting into it. Our second season, when we were really trying to like start finding our feet, we just had a feeling about a couple. We were like, we think we know that we can do what we want. And we put some like hardcore hip hop and electronic music in it. And we were so scared. We were like sweating when we sent over their video, and we got the best reaction we've ever had. And that's because we did what we love. So that showed. And that was kind of like full speed ahead after that. We're like, okay, let's keep doing what we love and not second guess ourselves.
Just to fill in the story a little bit on that, I actually played this song for Aly and I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be awesome if we could just use this? Like we can't, like obviously we can't, but wouldn't that be cool? And she's like, let's just do it. And I'm like,
why not?
No,
like,
no way. We're going to get sued and, or something, or they're going to hate it, and she encouraged us to do it. And I remember sending that off and we were like going camping or something that weekend. And I was so frightened. And then, to get back that email of like, this is the most amazing thing we've ever seen. Like we didn't know you guys were capable of this. Like we frankly didn't know that it was going to be this good.
And we're still super proud of that video. And that was 4 years ago with, worse cameras, worse tripods, all different gear. And we're still proud of that.
I think if I were to advise somebody who is just getting into the industry, across the board, it's if you kind of do, if you're yourself on every level you can be, even when we meet with clients, we tell them the same story about how we met and how we got into it. People respond to authenticity and true, emotional resonance. So I think yeah, we just kind of took a leap of faith, and we keep taking that leap of faith every time if we can. That's how we know we're doing it right.
No, I agree with that. And I think that people, especially like photo and video, I mean, it's such an intimate thing on the wedding day. Like you're so with, the people. And I do think like people know like, who I am and like, who like Dorothy is and my dog and like who we are and like you guys. And like, I want like you to know as much about me as I do about, you, if I'm going to be with you on your wedding day. And like, I totally agree with that. And like, all the way down to, the video. And it is so funny. Like, I totally know that same feeling, sending like those first couple years, like you would send off the thing. And like, I remember now, like I get like notifications on like my email, if someone like clicked a link or whatever. But I think I used to just like go on like Vimeo and just like refresh like the play count to see, to see if like they played it yet. And like, oh, I wonder, oh, well, okay, they watched it. Okay. I guess we'll see that. Yeah, talk about that's actually a great segue. Kind of talk about that, that fear of like, obviously you've put, people know, like everyone always says, oh, I know like video takes a lot of time and like there's all this editing, but talk about like putting like your heart and soul kind of behind that and sending it off. What do you think about that?
Wow. Yeah, it's so funny. You're right. People do say that they understand how long it takes and sort of how much effort you're putting into it. But I think for the most part, they have no idea, even if they say that. It's for us, if we were doing this for the money, we would have been out of this business a long time ago, because the amount of hours that we put in and the amount of thought that we put in, waking up thinking about a video, going to bed listening to music for videos tirelessly because you can't find the right thing. We do really put our heart and soul into it, and it becomes kind of our life. So it's when we send it off, no matter what, even if we know the couple's going to love it, we feel totally safe with what we've done, that it's terrifying.
I think I'm a little less terrified than you, because I'm a little bit more detached about it, because I would just, I don't know, worry myself silly if I was like, oh, I love it so much. What if they don't love it? But it's kind of like a kid you got to send off to college. Like, you did your best, you did what you could, and now they're going off into the world, and you just got to see how the world takes it.
Yeah, that's probably been the hardest learning lesson for me. And it might sound like callous how I say it, but like, yeah, like I try not to get like super emotional about it, like until I send it off, because yeah, it totally used to be, you'd spend all this time and like, like my highlight videos are longer, but if it's like 8 minutes or whatever, and like, you've looked at like every single second of that and all this, and then somebody's like, oh, we really don't like, and you'd be like, no, like they don't even understand. But yeah, so like, I'm like, I totally try to like, and then once they come back and they love it, I'm like, okay, like now that it's accepted, I can be happy with it. But otherwise, you kind of worry yourself silly where you get so attached. And I see people post all the time online like, oh no, I spent all this time and people, and it's like, you kind of, it's still a client-based business at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and not everybody is going to see like the tiny little transitions that you just like melt over. But it's really nice to work with your partner, because you're like, look at this transition, melt over it. So I think we show each other appreciation in those like little more like technical things that we want each other to notice.
And the flip side is that they don't notice the little things that we might, not feel 100% great about. And I mean, I know you know what I'm talking about. That's the other great thing, is that it's their wedding day. So we might obsess over these tiny details, and they don't even see it. So, yeah, it's I don't know what else to say about that.
No, on the flip side, if you have somebody, like Dorothy is a teacher, and where she is not connected, I can bring her in and show her and totally get that. And she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So although it is nice to have a partner that knows exactly what you're doing, sometimes kind of
it's nice.
It's nice to have a blind vote there. And they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about here. And they'll say, okay, I'm good. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. So getting back kind of into the story here. So you guys are trying to figure out how to kind of make a go at this, and you're coming up with the name, and then like, how did it go kind of like starting the business? Like, was there, obviously like everybody has growing pains and stuff, but like, how did that work for you guys and kind of figuring out to make it a go for reals?
I mean, there was a lot of like start and stop, and we worked on a lot of projects just to make money, just to get by, just so we could stay afloat, so we could do the projects that we love to do. And now we're doing like every single project is amazing. So if you're a first year videographer, just like hang in there because we did some terrible projects, like terrible documentary works. We worked for some, companies and stuff. But we just like kept going, and sometimes it was a lot of like trial and error. Also working with your partner, you have to like really work on your communication and respecting each other's opinions all the time. Being 50-50 partners is not always easy. Super rewarding, but definitely in the beginning we were eating a lot of bean burritos, and we just were not there yet. And it's nice to remember those times because we're like, wow, it's awesome now. Like,
yeah, and I will say one of the biggest factors for us when we first got going in terms of starts and stops is we actually changed locations like 4 times. We had these like sort of, we would start a wedding season and start to build up some momentum, and then we would move. And because of...
so don't do that. We started in the Bay Area where I'm from, and we moved up to Portland, and our business really took off. And when I got pregnant, we decided to move back to the Bay Area. Big mistake. And it is really difficult. Like our clients still are like, where do you live? Where are you even? So I think that was our biggest hurdle, was just changing locations so many times.
Yeah. We're still, we still do a bunch of weddings down in California, just referrals that come in. And, I can remember a number of seasons where we were driving up either down to the Bay Area or up to Portland, like I would say 2 or 3 times a month, just because we had these weddings that we had booked, in the previous season.
Lack of foresight, pretty much.
Exactly. So that's been a big challenge as far as, getting going. Now, thankfully, we're firmly entrenched in the wedding community here. And I have to say the wedding community here in Portland is like fantastic.
It's the best that I've been to. And we've traveled a lot to do weddings. We've done weddings in all sorts of places. And Portland is super welcoming. It's like a really big wedding community family up here.
We do love to come up to Seattle too. There have been some incredible vendors we've worked with up there as well, and couples.
Yeah, what up, Seattle?
Yeah, talk about Portland. I was just down there for a hot second on, was it Friday? I went down, I had to do an interview really quick at the US Bank building. And I think I was in Portland for like 45 minutes and then hit to beat traffic. But talk about Portland. I know Seattle is I find maybe a little more higher budget than Portland, at least kind of clients I talk to. But what do you guys find in terms of like both video and kind of just weddings in general in Portland?
Well, I will say, our wedding photographer friends tell us that there's a higher per capita amount of wedding photographers than anywhere else in the US. And I really believe that's true. And it's starting to be the same way with video to a much lesser degree. So the competition is definitely, there's definitely competition in the wedding media world, but it
all feels like friendly competition though. Like we just had our first wedding videographer meetup. The photographers get together all the time, but for some reason videographers just haven't gotten together. And Craig Flood of Watertown Films, shout out, he got a bunch of awesome videographers in the Portland area together, and it just felt super comfortable and nice to be around peers, people who have similar lives as us, and it just feels super welcoming.
Yeah, we even have like almost everybody who's in town. There's like a group where we all pass around referrals at this point, and we know each other's style. So it's like, it does feel like a very, community over competition sort of a thing. As far as the weddings down here, I will say they don't tend to always match our style, in the sense that I would say the majority are, boho styled in a field, very natural, very sort of wispy. That's kind of how people describe their wedding. And
which we've also filmed, and works with our style as long as it's the right client and they want that type of a video. I would say, yeah, as far as price point goes, Seattle is a little bit higher budget, which is nice to go up there sometimes. For a change of pace, but Portland is pretty like I feel like it's pretty middle level budget, and yeah.
There is an influx of people as well to this town, and people complain about that. But for us, it's almost feeling like a blessing, because we've established our style, we've established ourselves in the community, and as there's an influx of people, there are more people who want our very specific, very niche sort of thing that we do. So for us, it's feeling very expansive, and like every year things are moving forward in a really nice way.
No, yeah, and I know what you mean in terms of like style and stuff. I mean, you guys seem a little bit more like industrial, maybe a little than like that wispy, but like, up in Seattle, like, we have, it's like barn venue, barn venue, barn venue. So then, you can go do like, we have some awesome like brick buildings or really cool like stuff in downtown Seattle. So yeah, just because you have a style doesn't mean like sometimes having a different style and applying it to something that you're not normally shooting in. So I get that, where like, just because it's not what, necessarily what you guys, like how you would have your wedding to be, like, doesn't mean that you can't add your own flair to kind of whatever that is. Talk about husband-wife team. Talk about your guys' wedding. How did that go?
Our wedding was pretty awesome. We were very young. We were 23, and it was when we were just starting wedding video. Thank God, because we hadn't been to a million weddings and didn't have a million ideas. We had limited ideas, limited budget. It was in California in my mom's backyard, and she completely re-landscaped everything. And we're super big on lighting. So the biggest focus of our wedding was creating an awesome, like, fairy lighting kind of situation in the backyard.
We didn't have the money to buy that lighting though. So I remember, I think it was 2 nights or 3 nights before our wedding, we were like hand soldering and like electrical taping together these ghetto lights from Home Depot that we hung from palm trees.
We like soldered it all together. But as far as like the result, everyone was like, this is very, very magical, because we are in video and we know how much lighting is so important to the feel of a space and of a party. We also had all of our guests wear the color of our wedding, which was blue. So what I heard from guests was they felt like they were like a decoration, and everybody was like a part of it and was like on the same team. I also heard some people be like, oh, now I got to buy a blue dress. But it was really like special for us. And we had like 70 people there. It was pretty small and intimate. It was nice.
Yeah, our wedding photography was donated by a vendor that we had met, and which was very, very kind, and they did a wonderful job. And our friend Brian, who we had just started, it was his first wedding he ever shot, and he shot
it. Great job. He did a great job on our wedding film, and we edited it ourselves, which is very fitting.
All shot on a 5D Mark III, with handheld, but it's so cool how it is, because it's so different than what we would do, but it feels so authentic.
Well, that's good. I mean, at least you guys, had a video. I feel like we don't do them anymore, but we used to do a lot of video meetups up here. And that was the topic of conversation one night. Was there were so many and even husband-wife teams that were like, oh, we just can't believe that not everybody gets a video. I said, oh, well, who did? How'd you got? Oh, we didn't have video. We didn't have video.
Right.
And I'm like, well, how? I was like, how are you supposed to sell that for someone? I mean, I guess just the regret, but
right.
Talk about kind of, and this was something I was going to get to later, but we can talk about not every couple in Seattle, has a video, right? As I'm sure not every couple in Portland has a video. So kind of talk about your thoughts behind that. I don't want to lead the question too much.
I don't think that every couple absolutely needs a wedding video. I don't think that every couple wants that for their wedding. I'm very, very biased, because I think that, especially after our own wedding, I just know how many moments we forgot. And also, we were so young and beautiful, and it's really nice to see yourself in video before you have kids. It's lovely. And there were so many moments that you miss, because you only have 2 eyes. Like, we're 2 videographers running around all day, capturing those moments that you miss on one of the most important days of your life. And I always tell clients in meetings that, sometimes they're like, oh, you guys are a little out of our budget. And we totally understand that. And we say, if you don't go with us, go with somebody, because just those shots they become super special for the rest of your lives.
Absolutely. And photographers, I always say, I wish I was as talented as they are at capturing the moment, an entire scene in one frame. That's so cool. We can't do that, but what we can do is use the motion and the audio to pull you into that experience again. And I think that is something that video can offer that's so unique. And I would actually disagree. I think every wedding needs a videographer, even if it's just a single shooter and a lav mic on the groom, just something to make sure that that's captured. Because I have just had so many conversations with people who regret not having it done.
Also, as far as like photographer, I mean, with photography, you get those amazing still images, but you don't get any of the amazing, beautiful words spoken. And that's what's so incredibly important, and what you forget. You forget what you say in your vows, and then you watch them over on your anniversary and you're like, oh man, like
I haven't been doing any of that.
Like,
yeah, right.
No, you're just like, wow, that's poetic and beautiful. And like you relive and you feel the feeling that you felt on that day and in that moment. And that's what we try to capture every single time.
Well, yeah, well, that and I agree that you had a much more diplomatic answer starting off than I would have had. But it's just interesting to me because even like before we came on, I was looking and we had a pretty well known photographer just get married here yesterday, and like she was posting photos and tagging all her vendors, and I was like, oh, I wonder who she had to do her video, and like no video, right? And like they had really nice, super nice like Seattle venue, high end photographer, high-end DJ, high-end photo booth, high-end planner, high-end, like all these things. And like, even, there's a couple photos posted. Like one of the photos is like them with the microphone, like giving their vows. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if we'll know what they said or not. It's just frustrating because like, even, we say it and it's like, we have a friend that's getting married and she's, they're kind of on the fence, and it is like kind of this world of regret where either people, can't afford it or don't want it and then feel bad later or whatever. And like, but here's someone that, she's been in the wedding industry for years and chose like not to do it. And so it's always just curious to me and kind of where other videographers kind of feel about that.
That is a little weird that she is in the business and didn't get a wedding video.
I wonder which videographer she worked with that turned her off that much to video. I mean, it is funny how many people too I talk to who still don't even realize that it's a thing, who genuinely think that if they hire a videographer, somebody will show up with a shoulder camera with a light on it and will be 2 inches from their face. And so I think just the kind of the awareness thing, I mean, it's changing really quick with Instagram and stuff, but it's astounding how many people still don't know that it's a possibility.
Yeah, talk about how do you guys use, obviously a lot of social media, and I see you guys doing a lot of like stylized shoots and stuff. Talk about how do you guys try to like change that perception and kind of market and kind of show your stuff off?
Well, I will say, like we talked about, we use stories quite a bit. Like, with social media, when we discovered stories, it was such a liberating thing because suddenly we were able to put something out that wasn't a perfectly polished product that still allowed people to get to know us, see behind the scenes, and it felt okay to do that. And so we've used that to a great degree to just help couples get to know who we are, and that has changed the game for weddings.
Also, what you said about styled shoots. So most weddings are from April to October, pretty much, right? That's like our wedding season. So we really have a lot of downtime in the off season to do, and we still want to do cool stuff, and we still want to put out cool videos. So we started doing styled shoots 2 years ago, I think. Up here in Portland, and it's been a great way to showcase other vendors, and it's been a great way to meet other vendors and to also be creative in a different way. Because I don't really recall any video people who were doing styled shoots at that time, and we just thought it would be like a fun, cool thing to do, and now we're seeing it everywhere, which is awesome. Because not only do they get photos of the shoot, but they get like, you know, a fast paced, in our case, film to showcase other vendors' work.
And it allows us to be even riskier with what we're doing, because there's not a bride and a groom that are, you know, that this is this thing that they're going to watch for, you know, 80 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It's something where we can really, truly push the envelope and take risks. And if we see clients responding well to it, we can start integrating that in.
Well, plus it gets your guys, like you said, networking and kind of getting your face and name out there. And I do think, you know, a lot of the times there is a perception of like, you know, if you hire, like you said, the videographer with the shoulder camera, but like, oh yeah, we hired this videographer, like he showed up half hour before the ceremony, filmed, and then he left. Or like, I've been talking with other photographers and they're like, I was like, oh, I didn't even get his name. I don't know who that was. I don't know who. And we're like, I, you know, try to like put, you know, our name and face, and like you guys, and like, you know, this is who we are. We're going to be there. This is what we do. This is how we like to work. And like, I think that's so important. I mean, I don't know, have you heard stories like that, or what I see you nodding your heads just about kind of those thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's super important that the clients know exactly who we are and who is going to show up on their wedding day. Sometimes we go to meetings and they're like, well, like, do you hire people out? Like, who are your shooters? And we're like, no, like, you're looking at it. This is us. Like, we're getting to know you now so that you can be really comfortable on your wedding day. And it's not just like some creepy dude.
Well, and to even add to that, as far as like, even in the editing process, I always tell clients, we're going to be, you know, starting from the first meeting, we're getting to know their personalities, and we're seeing what they like and they don't like, and we're going to know their micro expressions on the day. So as we're shooting their toast and the uncle is getting a little too tipsy and he's saying stuff that they're not into, we can like see that that's happening, and then trim it out, or you know, or minimize it as part of the final film. And that is not to be underestimated as a service, and as a what, you know, something that we can offer as a smaller company.
Right. And just getting to know the couples like on a very like personable basis. Like, we still keep in touch with people we met at weddings 5 years ago, because they know who we are and they keep up with us and we keep up with them, because it's kind of a close experience, and you kind of want to know who's going to be there on your wedding day.
Absolutely. And I will say, in our reviews, like the thing that we find most most rewarding for us is when they say, oh, you know, these people were like, not only did they make a great film, but they added to our wedding day. It's something that I see on the reviews for you as well, Reed, is like, you know, the same thing. Like, Reed was awesome. He like, you know, he not only made a great film, but like he was a genuine part of our day. So that you know, that's something that is so cool to see, and we feel like is really important.
Yeah, and that's always a big thing for me. And I think kind of going back to like, you know, people hiring videographers or not, is like, the thing I always try to express to couples is, you know, I always want our service to be like a zero subtraction, like only adding to your day. That at least, you know, how my style, and that's, you know, not everybody's like, I don't have people do a lot of other stuff that, you know, maybe the photographer would have them do whatever. Like, I just always want people to know, like, having us there is only going to like aid in your memory and kind of like, you know, the memories and capturing things. And like, I just don't want to be like the pain in the butt about it. And it seems like you're a similar way where you really want to just help kind of enhance that, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things when we first got into this that we felt like we could do. We were like, wow, we have a unique energy, and we aren't going to be flies on the wall. Like, we are people that are there that are going to bring our energy, and it can be a good experience or not. And we just, every single time we do it, it's a practice and an exercise to make it the best, most positive experience that we can.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of your process. You've mentioned a couple of times about kind of, you know, meeting and then, you know, or meetings with clients or kind of getting to know them. Talk about how do you guys approach that if somebody, you know, wants to book you guys, and kind of walk me through kind of your process. Because, you know, I think video is going to be different than photo in terms of like how people interact and how we book and company to company. So kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we always emphasize is that we always do a face-to-face meeting, and that might mean FaceTime if it has to be that. We find usually, a couple, even if they're coming from out of town, is going to come and meet their vendors at some point before the wedding. So we try to, even if it's just for a short little meet and greet, we try to always make that happen. We find it makes such a huge difference with the final product. We've definitely had success, not meeting a couple before the day, but it's something that we try to minimize. So, the meetings are so important to us. They're structured in a way where we start off by, really talking to the couple and asking them about them. And I think that's something that a couple, isn't always expecting. They're kind of expecting a sales pitch. And for us, it truly, I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like we're like trying to be exclusive or anything, but we do, sometimes steer couples away if it seems like it's not going to be a good fit, or if it seems like they're prioritizing something different than what we're going to offer them. So we do ask them, how did you meet? What drew you to our videos? And then we kind of do go into like emphasizing, what we offer and what's unique about us. Yeah, and how we work exactly. Like, especially, I would say we tend to be, of the people here in Portland, we tend to be a little bit more lit in terms of how we light receptions and toasts, and even bride prep and groom prep. We'll bring an LED panel, or we'll bounce something off the ceiling if we have to, because for us, if it's a minor change on the wedding day, we would rather do that and have this lasting thing that that people, where they feel like they look the best and they feel really good about it. We at receptions, we tend to we try to fade up the lights and fade them down and stuff like that. But I always make sure that I tell couples during that meeting process, so that they know that if they're, if that's not something that they want to prioritize, they can go with somebody else. I talk to them about audio, about where tripods might be placed and how other vendors might feel about that. I tell them to talk to their photographer about it and make sure that it's going to work well with them. For us, we would so rather preload all of those logistics and make sure that a couple is 100% go with it, so that on that day we can say to another vendor, hey, look, this is what the couple wants. We want to work with you as best as we can, but this is what they hired us to do. So hopefully that answers the question.
That was a good answer. What do you wish more people knew about videography, or couples planning and things, or asked, or what do you find? I always say, what are some common pitfalls or whatever. What do you wish that more people, and this is usually a stumper, so if it takes you a second, that's okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. There's a lot of them. I think.
Please list all of them.
Okay, no problem. The main one, just at the very beginning of the day, is really focusing on choosing your locations wisely. Like, where the bride gets ready really affects the photo and the video, but especially the video, because we don't really have as much leeway as far as color goes and stuff like that. So finding really clean, bright, open, nice rooms with a lot of natural lighting. We really sometimes we'll go into a bride prep space and the makeup artist will be doing the bride's makeup in the bathroom with orange lights, and then we die inside and we help them move their stuff over to a nice bright window so that the bride just gets her video back and is like, wow, I look freaking gorgeous because you placed me in front of this window. I also think, what are some other things?
I was going to say, you mean the basement of a Airbnb at 6 in the morning when they have no windows and you're like, why are we here right now? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I was just remembering one of our most fantastic getting readies from last year, and I was like, I can't even stand in this room.
You're like, how can you even see each other? And we do have a lot of daylight beauty lighting for that reason, because we first started off and we started our company very light focused, and not a lot of video companies do that. They tend to kind of add their lighting kit as they go. We started off right off the bat, we want beautiful lighting. We mixed lighting creates strange skin tones, and it is a pet peeve of mine. It drives me crazy. So we started off very lighting heavy. So we can fix those basement situations, but it still isn't going to be as great as a beautiful window with some natural lighting.
Yeah, and to speak to that, we had really, really bad cameras when we started. So it was kind of a necessity to learn to light well. The sensors were not great. So that's kind of how that evolved. I will say another huge pitfall is not focusing on the DJ you're hiring. And I've heard, some amazing interviews that you've done with DJs that really care about their craft and truly like create an event and almost a script or like a way that things are going to flow, and they spend a lot of time thinking about it. That's not always the case. And if a DJ isn't thinking about where they're placing their microphone receivers, their wireless mic receivers, even though we have backups and we're using solid state recorders on the groom and the officiant, that can still, like the PA system cutting in and out will still be audible, and that'll greatly affect the way your wedding vows sound. So that's such a huge thing.
And just to clarify, I mean, the DJ is very important for the reception too, but where it matters for us when you're hiring a DJ is more for your ceremony. So a lot of clients, they won't even think about the DJ's setup, what it's going to be during their ceremony. Are you going to hold a handheld mic during your vows? Who's going to hold it? Where do you put your receiver? Like, it's all very important to video, and we do have many, many backups that we use just in case that doesn't go according to plan. But obviously, it's always great to have multiple excellent sources of audio.
Another big pitfall that's coming to mind when people are hiring videographers is not looking at just looking at kind of like highlight, like little montages, and not looking at complete films, or not looking at enough of a variety of films. It's the same thing with photographers. You know how it is in the industry right now, where there are these workshops and these, quote unquote style shoots where a bunch of people show up, the work's already done for them, they're in beautiful light, they snap a shutter and they can upload something. It looks gorgeous, but you look at a full album and they're not able to handle the light. They're not able to respond quickly to the changes in the variables on the day. And that's the same thing for video. So it's always kind of looking at that wide variety of jobs and making sure that they're able to handle those different conditions.
I have one as far as hiring a planner. So a lot of people don't think it's super important to hire a planner. If you're going to hire a planner, that's awesome. They're amazing. They make your day run smoother. Also, it's super helpful to just have a timeline for the reception. If we go into a wedding reception and we don't know when things are going to happen, it's a lot harder for your photographer and your videographer to be prepared. So I think a lot of times it's really good to know when your toasts are going to start, where they're going to give the toast, so that your media team can be prepared.
Yeah, and just to kind of echo back on the getting ready locations, for video, at least kind of the way we do video, it's more kind of that like full picture view, kind of start to finish, where, I think a lot of photographers can kind of focus on kind of some of the prettier stuff. And like we had a wedding a couple years ago, and, they got ready at their house, and that was great. And it was like an apartment in Tacoma, and he got ready, I think, at their apartment, and she was at the mom's or whatever. But then like, their reception was awesome. I mean, it was, decked to the nines, and they brought in custom lighting and fog and whatever. And like my video had to start, at the beginning. And like when the photographer got it published and whatever, and like the only photos that were in that, submission were, nice portraits in the light, and then kind of reception details. And so it's just, like you said, just kind of thinking about those getting ready locations. I mean, even if I tell people, even if it's just like Airbnb for like a couple $100, I wouldn't want to do photo and video in my house, here. But I mean, just making those thoughts, I think that's a great point. And even for photo too, I think that's a great point that people don't think about enough is where they want to get ready. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's definitely something that gets overlooked for sure.
Yeah, I think thankfully I think we're seeing that it's changing in the industry. I mean, or maybe I don't know whether. We
also tell our clients that in meetings.
That's true. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But it does seem like there's more thought put to that as this cycle of people seeing other weddings on Instagram and having sort of these examples as coming through. So
I did want to ask one kind of follow-up. You were talking about, making sure that people are looking at enough examples and things and seen that. And I do think, for photo or video, I do think that that's really true. I feel like even now I had, couples last summer where, we booked and we have hundreds of, there's plenty to choose to look at. And we still do get that from time to time, like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be that long, or I didn't know it was going to be this or that. So, I mean, talk about just like you said, making sure that couples, really look, whether it's you guys or whoever, like really look and kind of do their research and make sure they know kind of what they're going to get. Talk about that.
So, I mean, it's really important for us when we find clients that we know at our first meeting that we are their people and they found the right people, because we do know a lot of videographers in town and a lot of photographers in town who are amazing and who just have different styles. So I think it's really important to do your research, who's around, who's in town, and really try to focus on those creative details that maybe you're not used to looking for in your everyday life. Because video and photo, it's a little bit different than, it's a creative form. So just making sure that you like the music that the videographer chooses, making sure you really like the way that they film portraits, the audio clips that they choose to use, and how they weave together that story of your love story. It's really important to notice that. I think music is a really big one. Clean and crisp audio when you're looking for a videographer is very, very important. Sometimes it's really hard to hear audio if it's not perfect and clear when you're also trying to overlay that audio over music too.
And I will say, we live in the Pacific Northwest, same in Seattle and Portland. The chances that it's going to rain on your wedding day are a lot higher here. And so looking and making sure that should you need to use the backup option where you're indoors, it's a little bit darker. If, let's say you planned this wedding out in a beautiful place outside, making sure that they're able to adapt. I always tell couples when they're choosing photographers, especially, look at how they're handling dark spaces. That's the thing that I always emphasize, because that's what's going to show the skill and what's going to show the ability to adapt. And same with videographers. Just, it's fine if you're 100% sure that you're going to be outside and in beautiful light all the time. That's then great. Hire somebody just based on their framing and their style. But if there's a chance that it might change, they've got to be able to handle that darkness.
That's a really good point. Making sure that your media team lines up with your venue. So if you're going with a venue like an old hotel and it's going to have orange chandelier lighting and no natural light at all, making sure that you go with a videographer and photographer where you've seen their work in those dimmer spaces and you have confidence that they can adapt to that space.
No, and that honestly is something I get asked a lot too. It's like, well, how do you guys handle low light, or how do you handle this? And I always say, I just buy the equipment, and you guys with lighting, I buy it so it'll work. And, when you do it enough, like we do, you're going to spend the money, same with a good DJ or same with a good photographer. One other question I had, and I think we're long enough into this podcast where only interested people are here. Do you guys, there's a thing in Seattle now, we get a lot of photographers offering kind of like highlight video packages kind of as like add-ons. Do you guys see that a lot in Portland, or is that kind of a Seattle thing right now?
It's starting to come into the market for sure. And I don't think I have mixed feelings around it. I think it's great if they're able to do that well and handle both things. The thing that I've always noticed when it comes to photographers who move into the video space is that they don't have that emphasis on audio. They don't have that background on audio, and it can take a little bit of time to get that to understand how to adapt to those different conditions. And so what will often end up happening is that you'll receive a film back and it'll look like a moving slideshow where, it's great. It's just like the photos, but it's moving, and that's fantastic. But you're either hearing on camera sound that sounds really distant or nothing at all. And so that's my concern when it comes to photographers offering video. That's the one limitation that I see.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I think a moving video, music video is great, But what we do is we really craft a story based on what was said on their wedding day, and we really create a narrative. And that's something that I don't see a lot from that.
Also, we once tried to do video and photo at the same time when we were, young and dumb, and boy, is that hard. Like, even now we couldn't even approach trying to do that. It's such a different way of thinking.
Thank you for answering that far more diplomatically than I would. I just no. The reason I asked that, we just had a couple. I was talking to a gal, and they had a photo, and they were going to do it, but they could only offer them ceremony audio or reception audio. They couldn't offer both. And no one I've ever talked to could understand that, but that was what I was told. And I didn't understand if they were like renting mics for 2 hours and they couldn't get them. But I wanted to ask that because I do think that's a common trend now. And so I was just kind of curious your thoughts as video people, what you thought about that.
Yeah, I'd love to know why. I'd love to know the reason behind that.
They didn't book me, or else I would know that answer. So, well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and like I said, I really appreciate kind of getting to know you guys and seeing your work from afar and getting to chat even through this kind of Skype window has been awesome. And I know a lot of work with scheduling and putting the kid to bed and everything. Why don't you, first off, tell us just 2 seconds about your family life. Before I did want to ask you about that, about your wonderful baby, before we go, before I segue off.
So our family life is awesome because we're always together. It can be a challenge to balance work and family life. Sometimes we have to switch off editing or, get a babysitter for the day. But it's definitely like a balance.
Yeah, we have a 2-year-old son. His name is Phoenix. He's kind of this amazing little bundle of joy that's rising from the ashes of kind of coming from this cool relationship that we've created, and that's why we called him Phoenix.
And he has a man bun, and he looks exactly like both of us at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I will say, the way we shoot weddings has changed just slightly because being a parent, you start to understand the importance of children, and even as it relates to like the father-daughter dance and the mother-son dance, the importance of that and how much, when we first started doing this, I was like, okay, that's like kind of not a big deal.
We just cry the whole time. We just cry and film.
Absolutely. So that's really changed the way that we do things. But we don't have daycare services. We just keep our kid at home here. So it is a challenge to try to keep him engaged and be there with him while we're both sitting on laptops and just trying to crank out work all day.
And we also take a lot of adventures. One of the reasons we moved to Portland was because of the gorge. So we put him in a backpack and we go on hikes and we try to get out every other day at least.
I will say also vendors around town, kind of know us as these people who will show up to styled shoots with the baby in the backpack, and I'll shoot full on, gimbal, just like doing the steady, the gimbal walk with the backpack on. It's a whole thing. So it's been really cool for him to start to get an understanding of media even at such a young age.
It's just so funny as someone I'm very much a homebound, and so I see these hikes that you go on. I was like, oh, that's good for them. That's good. That's good. I'm not going to do that, but that's cool. That's neat. So I just know I'm watching. Just know I see that. So that's
awesome.
We'll take a hike for you, Reed.
Yes, you please do. Well, thank you guys again so much for hopping on today. I just wanted to get that last kind of thing in before I forgot, because I did have that joke about the hiking I wanted to use. If people want to learn more about you guys and your awesome films and your story and find more of your work, where would you have them check out and what would you have them do?
So we are at glitchfilms.com. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our handle is @glitchfilms. You can watch our crazy stories. We are totally ourselves, so have fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The website is the main place, and we are on the Knot and Wedding Wire and all that. But the best thing to do is to submit an inquiry through the website, even if you're just trying to get in touch with us and you just make up a wedding date, or you can email us. That's probably better.
Or if you have questions, even if we just get questions and we don't have inquiries, we love to answer questions. If anybody wants to get in touch,
you can email us at us@glitchfilms.com. It goes to both of us. And we do love to work with younger videographers and meet younger videographers and mentor them. It's like, we get so much more out of it than they ever could. So it's, please do get in touch if you're just new to the industry and you have questions.
That's good. I'll crush all their souls and send them to you guys. That sounds like a good, no, I'm teasing. That sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.